Okay, so let's try some single target stuff. We have our training dummy here, and we have a guide up here. And what we're going to be focusing on are the buffs. So up here you have clear casting. I want you to think missiles. When you see this, think this. When you see this, think this. And finally, when you see this, think this. The rotation begins with just Arcane Blast. So let's see if we can put this puzzle together based on our guide and just see if we can figure it out. So we'll start with Arcane Blast. Well, I got a buff, but it's not one of these, so we're not worried about that. But now I got this guy, and I have these. And it's clear casting. So if I get clear casting, think missiles. Okay. Well, now I've got another one here. And this one says if you get this, think 2 Arcane Blasts. Well, it's gone now, so let's see if we can get another one. Oh, we have clear casting again. And then I got 2 of these. Okay. So it appears that every time I use this, I have to use 2 of these afterwards. And I was right. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see if we can get this. We're using mana, and we got clear casting. So we use it to blast. Okay. What's this guy do? Well, this makes the next 2 Arcane Blasts instant. And if we know that we use 2 Arcane Blasts every time after we clear cast, we could weave that in. So let's see. So we're looking for a clear casting. There's the clear casting. So I'm going to clear cast Palm and then do my blast. Got my buff. Palm. Blast. Blast. Now we can continue on. Oh, clear casting again. Blast, blast. But now we have this guy. And this is just another free clear casting. So when I clear cast, I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use this. And I have to do my 2 blasts. Uh-oh. It's about ready to run out. Got it. Same scenario. I have basically 2 clear castings, and when I click clear casting, it's going to remove this one and not this one. Okay. Oh, Palm's off cooldown, so I'm going to use that. And I'm in this another scenario again. Now this guy's popped up before, and this is on our list, and that means to barrage. That's because that buff that you saw was a damage buff. So what's this guy? Let's see what happens with this. Well, something fancy happened, and I lost all my charges. And this guy gives you charges, all your charges. So we have all of our charges, and this removes all the charges. Okay. So this builds charges. And this spins them. Oh, Palm's off cooldown. So this reduces my cooldowns by 12 seconds. I'm at full charges. I know this gets rid of charges, So I'm going to use this and get rid of charges. Use this to get the charges. And then if I want, I can use the charges again. And now this has about 40 seconds cooldown. But if I'm shifting power, look at that. Huh. Palm's off cooldown now too. So let's see if we can just keep this rotation going for a minute. Right now I don't have clear casting, but I know my next one's going to be free, just because of this guy right here. Oh, this is off cooldown. What's this guy? And this is your big damage dealer. It also gives you pretty much full mana. So let's look at this logically. If this is a huge damage dealer, and this one gives me charges, and also accumulates damage, well, I'd want to start this with no charges. I'd want to start with full charges. Now a damage buff. Now my rotation. Oh, my buff's all gone. My big buff's all gone. So the best thing to do is to reduce the cooldowns. And continue on with my day. Oh, that came off cooldown. Huh. Rid of charges? Get charges. Now we're going to see this incorporated all together. And just like that, we've done 2 full rotations, and we never had to worry about mana. Next up, we're going to look at AoE. And AoE is all centered around charges. Positioning is critical with AoE, and here's why. Let's say I have this mob targeted here, and I'm going to get 4 charges, and I'm going to release them with Barrage. Well, I just shot out an orb, but it didn't hit any of these people. It will shoot out in the direction you are facing. For each charge, you have a 10% chance of shooting at an orb. If I have no charges, I could barrage all day long, and I'd never shoot out an orb. So let's get some charges on this one, and let's face the right way. We know this gives us all our charges, so let's give it that. And then we'll barrage to release the charges. Well, I didn't get an orb that time, but I do have this orb over here. And that gave me 4 charges. It actually gave me 5 charges, but I can only hold 4. When you shoot out an orb, you instantly get 1. Then you get 1 for every mob it hits. So technically I got 5, but it only counts 4. And then I'll barrage again. Still no orb popping out. Orb, barrage. Orb, barrage. Now I can Arcane Explosion to get charges, but Arcane Explosion has a range, something in there. So I need to get within this range to hit all 4. Now I got 2 charges. I got another charge, and finally I got all 4 charges. Now let's release it. Ooh, shot an orb out. And because I shot an orb out, I instantly got 1, plus 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm back at full charges again. Let's orb again. Or I'm sorry, barrage again. No orb. Let's just keep working this. See if we can... Oh, that procced 1. So I'm at full charges, so I can just release it again. And we'll start picking up the pace a little bit here. Ooh. Trying to get charges. Trying to get them, trying to spend them. And that's the fundamental of how to AoE. Now you notice I have clear casting. And clear casting affects your missiles, like we were earlier. It also affects Arcane Explosion. So normally Arcane Explosion would give 1 charge. But this time it gave me 3. So I'm sitting at a 30% chance of shooting out an orb. Let's see if we get one. Nope. Let's see if we can look for another one of those clear castings. And here we got one. So once I barrage, the next one will give me at least how many? 3. Need charges. Spend charges. Need charges. Now if I do it again, how many am I going to have? I'm clear casting, and I have 1 charge. If you answered all 4, you were correct. And this is the fundamentals of AoE. So let's say you've got your orb and your full charges, everything's going great. You do your orb, you're really rocking it out, but now you need something. Well, you can shifting power. It takes off 12 seconds, so now you have your orb again, don't you? And same thing with Touch of the Magi. You can get your charges, spend your charges. Ideally, you wouldn't want to shifting power until everything's on cooldown. So if this is on cooldown and this is on cooldown, then you can shifting power, and the benefit of that is it is also an AoE damage. Now this is the spec I prefer to run. This is not a common cookie cutter spec. Instead, some of the key takeaways from it is Reverberate, where whenever you're AoEing, you have a chance, 50% chance, to gain extra charge if you hit 3 or more mobs. So it gets you to that point of spending charges faster. End AoE. So it's strictly an AoE thing. This is your Execute. It deals 100% more damage when they're at low health. This talent is the one that shoots out the orb in front of you based on your charges. We learned about that. This is to increase the barrage damage after you've done 20 missiles. I like taking Dragon's Breath and Mass Barrier. This is Alter Time, that thing that was healing you. These are the mirror images. And this thing heals you when they die. I also run Reduplication just to keep the cooldown low. But this is a well-formed spec. Now, what you'll probably see is something more along the lines of this. And this is your cookie. And the addition to the spec is 2 major things. Oops, sorry. This is cookie. The 2 major changes are these 2 additions here of Radiant Spark and Evoke. Evoke basically gives you all your mana, but that's not really why you're using it. You're using it to increase your intellect. This is called a ramp. So what you'll do is the same thing that you've done in single target, except before you get going, you're going to touch the Magi, and then we would Arcane Surge, right? But if you ran Cookie, you would touch the Magi, Radiant Spark, then Arcane Surge. But before all that, before the fight's even going on, you evoke. And right as the fight starts, then you start that rotation. The rotation is essentially the same. The concept is identical. You are building charges, you are spending charges. I get asked, how do you conserve mana? And you delay. You stall. So, what I mean by that is I'm going to spend some mana here. Okay, so I'm looking at my options as I'm really low on mana now. And I think to myself, well, there you go. I just got Arcane Surge randomly through this talent right here. That alone, that randomness, just gave me full mana. And that's part of why I love this spec, is because you have to keep on your feet. You have to keep looking here. So let's try that again, and hopefully we don't get a random mana buff. Alright, so I'm running low on mana, and I gotta think to myself, how can I DPS still and have mana? Well, I have 4 charges of missiles. So let's see what this does. I'm not even worried about blast right now. I'm disregarding this completely. I'm stalling. I'm at full charges. Okay, get the charges back, spend them. Okay, where am I at now? Okay, I'm sitting a lot better. I'm now at 40% instead of 0%. Let's see what else we can do. So we'll get our mana down real low again. Alright, our mana's about dead. Okay, we have nothing left. But Arcane Surge, oops, we got it randomly. Let's take that off real quick. I just got it twice randomly. This is the beautiful thing about it, is it's difficult to run out of mana, and it's very easy to burn. And I think that's why it has the edge over this talent here. Where this is great for a boss, but this is great all the time, in my opinion. Okay, now we're gonna do a little quiz because you know the fundamentals, you know the basics, and we're gonna integrate some more advanced stuff in there, okay? So the situation is this: I just came up to a mob. What do I need to do? What's the first thing I should think of? Is I need charges. I'm weak. I'm only hitting people for 10k right now. So if I get charges, now I'm hitting them for 45k. Big difference. Okay. So how about this one? I just got clear casting. What's the first thing I should think of? Is Palm on cooldown? Because once I use this, I'll need Palm to pump out these two. Alright. How about I'm moving and I have full charges. I'm transitioning into another pull. So if you picked another Tempest, you were correct on that. Let's say I'm out of mana. An Arcane Surge is on cooldown. First thing I should think of is, do I have any clear casting? I don't have any clear casting. I don't got anything. Everything's on cooldown. I have 0 mana. Well, you stall. You just stall. Try to use anything you can. And the key to managing your mana is never be put in a position to stall. So if your mana is down here and you're just now thinking about it, you should have been thinking about it somewhere around here. Somewhere around that 40% mark. Do I have enough mana to continue this boss, to continue this trash pull, or whatever? Okay, I shoot out an orb and it only hits 2 mobs. How many charges did I get? I got 3 charges. 1 for releasing it, plus 2 for hitting them. Arcane Explosion. If I hit 3 mobs, what's the max charges I could get if I hit 3 mobs? The max charges I could get is 3. Okay, now we're going to look at what's better. If you're in a scenario where you have no arcane charges and you're going up against this guy here, you have a choice. Arcane Blast gives you charges and Arcane Explosion gives you charges. You want charges. This Arcane Blast will hit for about 10k, but the Arcane Explosion will also hit for about 10k. This has no cast time, but this does have a cast time. So the most logical thing to do is the Arcane Explosion. And now you have your charge. The damage of this increases with each charge you get. So now this is at 19,000 over, let's round and say 2 seconds. And this one's 10,000 and it's instant. Well, in this scenario, it would be better to use Arcane Blast. So we started our first charge with an Arcane Explosion, and then we did an Arcane Blast for the second one. This damage of Arcane Explosion is static. It doesn't matter how many charges we have, there'll always be this damage. But this increases. So now we went from 19 to 27, and from 27 to about 45. Meanwhile, Arcane Explosion is still sitting at 10,000. So after the second charge, it is always a DPS increase. Always a DPS increase to use Arcane Blast. Okay, now we're going to create a scenario in which we have no charges, but we have clear casting. And we're going to work out what the best method would be. So let's get clear casting on the board. Okay, so we don't want any charges, but we have clear casting. This will hit for 10,000 plus 4,000, or this will hit for 40,000 over 2 seconds, which is a little over 20,000. So you're essentially asking yourself 14,000 or 20,000. In that scenario that we gave where you had no arcane charges, but you have clear casting, you can create a rule that arcane missiles will always be better than arcane explosion. Now there are times where you'll have to double missile, and that's when you have your clear casting proc and a concentration proc that's like a free clear casting. So let's put this into motion and start gathering up 3 clear casting. There's the concentration. There's 1 clear casting, there's 2, and there's 3. So what I must do now, even though I could have Arcane Blast, is I have to missile and get rid of that old one. And now I definitely don't want to do my Arcane Blasts, because if I did, I could get another concentration, or a clear casting, and that would just be wasted. So that double missile gets things back in line. So let's see if we can do that one more time and see if we can get 3 stacks of clear casting. There's 1. And there's the concentration. So I would missiles, missiles, blast, blast. Back to my rotation. And that's the reason you'd want to use missiles twice in a row. Alright, we're going to do a deep dive into Nether Tempest. And that's your dot right here. And it says about 3,000 now. The tooltip is usually messed up. On some mages it works, and on some mages it does not work. But keep in mind 3,000. So if I put them on him right now, it's hitting for about 210 or so. So we'll let that fall off. What if I add 2 charges? It was 3,000. It's still about 3,000. But let's see if it hits for 210. 2 charges. Ooh, it's hitting for 600. 610. So we'll call that 0, 200. And this one, 600. Let's see what it's like at 4 charges. Oh, now we're at 1,000. Almost 1,100. Okay, so we went from 6 at 2 to a little over 1,000 here. 600 to 1,000. So the gains you get from these will always be greater. So if you had an infinite number of charges, the most logical spot to do it would be at the very last one. Well, it wouldn't be that way if they were infinite, but you see what I mean. So it only makes sense to always do Nether Tempest when you have full charges. So what's the thing that gives us full charges? Well, this. So if we spent our charges and we have none, we know that if we're in this situation, we can also be in this situation. And it does have a niche use because the DPS is somewhat low. So I recommend only doing it while moving. Or repositioning. Or going from one pole transitioning into another. Next thing we're going to look at is how Arcane Orb captures charges. So we'll get rid of our charges. And remember, we have, for each charge, a 10% chance to shoot out an orb. So let's get some charges. Oh, what was that? Let's watch that again. Here. I shot out an orb. And oh yeah, that's right, we learned in our earlier lesson, we get 1 automatically, and then however many for however many we hit. So let's shoot our orb. There's our 1. And it hit 4 targets, and it gave me 3 charges. Huh. So I wonder which would hit first, barrage or orb, if it procced. Let's see. Nope, not on that one. Shifting power, let's get some more orbs. We got ours. Now we can use it. Oh. And it was the barrage that hits first. I could be standing here, or I could even be standing here. And the system will demand that the barrage hits first. It will always hit first. So that's how Arcane Orb captures charges. While you're getting the hang of Arcane and learning what your mana pool's like and how to manipulate charges and weave in cooldowns, there will come times where you just run out of mana and you feel like you have no way out. So this is what you do. Let's pretend we're DPSing and we've lost track of our rotation. And I have absolutely nothing to give me mana back, but I'm having so much fun arcane blasting, I lose track, then I'm out. I'm dry, completely dry. What am I doing? What am I doing? What's happening? Probably what's running through your mind. Just relax and reset. Reset your charges. Get back in your groove. 1, 2 missiles. 1, 2 missiles. And look where our mana is at now. We had a few random procs and now we're at full mana. Now you can kick back into gear. I see a lot of Arcane Mages run out of mana and start using Arcane Explosion, which is very mana heavy, and just running around like a crazy person. Just relax, reset your charges. 1, 2, clear cast. 1, 2, clear cast. And you'll have mana back in no time.